Alright, Pokemon Shield. I'm gonna title this video Go Play Pokemon Shield, not Go Play Pokemon Sword and Shield, because the one I got is Shield, and there's slight little variances here and there, but anyway, I wanted to keep it as specific to the game that I bought as I can, so it's gonna be Go Play Pokemon Shield. Also, I don't have a capture card for my Nintendo Switch, so the footage is going to be all trailers, Nintendo Treehouse, Pokemon Generations, that kind of thing, just to kind of fill up background. Anyway, that being said, let's get into this. You are the young, fresh-faced Pokemon trainer embarking on your quest to collect all the gym badges and become champion. That's about it. All the in-between stuff is a mix of explaining game mechanics or discovering a new rug on the wall referencing the cover art legendaries. Heck, it wasn't until after I had already gotten my final gym badge that the evil plot was unveiled, at which point I exclaimed out loud, "So after 8 badges, we finally have a villain." At said point, our quest to be the best there ever was is put on a very brief pause as we take an afternoon to go deal with a character who had a sudden heel turn to villainy and stop his nondescript evil scheme that would accomplish something vague. I'm not kidding here. So the current champion and the big bad have a discussion that a great darkness is going to come wreck the world in 1,000 years. The champion says, "Let's do our jobs first and then worry about it tomorrow," while the big bad says no. So the big bad releases Eternatus, the Pokemon causing all the Dynamaxing. You then fight and catch this big evil Pokemon the same night it's released. With the crisis averted, you can now beat the champion and win the game. We'll go deeper into this later. After you become champion, the post-game adventure revolves around stopping the stupidity of a pair who claim to be the descendants of the heroes who stopped the catastrophe way back in the day. They cause problems Dynamaxing Pokemon and letting them rampage, and you have to clean up after them until finally you beat them for good and catch the cover art legendary. Okay, I'm going to do my best to narrow this down to a small handful of either important or standout characters. Let's begin with Leon. He's the current champion and is one of those goofball but super competent characters. They play for laughs that he has a horrible sense of direction, which is why he's always late to a couple situations this player has to deal with. He works, I like him enough, and he gets special points for attempting to catch one of the legendary Pokemon in the game. Leon's little brother is Hop, and he is an irritating blight on the game. Hop is every GBA era and beyond rival character, but worse. He has all the irritating, wanting to be your friend too hardness of the rivals from Ruby and Sapphire on, but this time around he's the champion's younger brother, so he thinks he's entitled to everything as well. Worst part is he's another rival that willingly counterpicks himself to your starter, so not only is he a whiny millennial, but he also sucks. Game Freak, can I please have a rival who calls me names and when they lost they blame it on the sun in their eyes or something? Is what I was saying before I met Bidet. Bidet is who should have been your rival character. He's a complete punk who talks down to you, makes excuses for his losses, and as an added bonus, it's implied he's the son of a gym leader, so you get the whole entitled angle too. In short, he's the type of character you want to thrash. Bidet should have been the rival character. The gym leaders this time around stick with me a bit better than previous gens. I can't tell you any names of the Elite Four or gym leaders from gens 3 through 6. I can vaguely describe one or two of them, but that's it. And while that's still largely the case this time around, we had Opal. And I'll admit, at first I was thinking, get this old lady out of here. My god, her gym challenge sucks. But after the gym battle, she turns into this kinda creepy granny and goes to support Bidet's arc, who, by the way, would be a better rival character than Hop. Chairman Rose is, for about 20 minutes of the game, the bad guy. Outside those 20 minutes, he's a real cool dude. He's generous, chill, but at the same time he doesn't tolerate tomfoolery, as shown when he revokes Bidet's challenger license for causing too much trouble. The problem with him is before the champion battle, he all of a sudden becomes a bad guy trying to prevent a vague problem from the far-off future by doing another vague thing in the here and now, because for some reason waking up Eternatus is both bad and good, and it's all very confusing. There are none. There really is no evil villain in this game. First, you've got Team Yell. They amount to nothing more than a minor nuisance and the game's excuse for why I can't progress past certain places without a gym badge. Their whole goal is to get Marnie to become champion, but even Marnie is at best apathetic towards them. She's constantly telling them to tone it down and how she doesn't want to be champion with their interference. As I said, the villain team of this game is only there to explain invisible walls stopping you from sequence breaking. Actually, in that perspective, let me change my mind. Team Yell is the single most effective villain team of the Pokemon games. Let's go back to Chairman Rose. I don't get what the idea with him was. Well, first let me keep beating the dead horse. His heel turn makes no sense. It comes out of nowhere with no build-up and no payoff. It just happens as a brief intermission before the final boss fight with Leon. Something tells me this is going to be compared to Ether Foundation, so let's look at it real fast. In Sun and Moon, Lusamine was the leader of the Ether Foundation, and they were like this humanitarian aid group for Pokemon. Basically, better written version of Team Plasma. Well, her kids both ran away, and you find this out really early on. So while Lusamine may come off holier than thou, you know something's very wrong here. You also had Team Skull. While they weren't the most well-trained or disciplined villain group, we've seen they managed to occupy an Alolan city. They weren't to be screwed with. You come to find out Lusamine was using Team Skull to do her dirty work, and this was all an earned course of events. Through characters and story beats, we had plenty of setup to understand the sudden revelation and character motivations. Chairman Rose, on the other hand, is friend to all, a generous businessman, a kind of eccentric, but not in a crazy way, and a strong, reliable figurehead of the Pokemon Championship. He suddenly becomes a bad guy, saying there's a certain calamity that will happen in 1,000 years and he needs to stop it. We find out about this moments before his boss fight. Okay, so how does he plan to prevent this calamity? Waking up the Pokemon Eternatus, which we also find out is the source of Dynamax. Unless I missed something, Eternatus is never mentioned before this. During this time, the game says Pokemon are going crazy, Dynamaxing and wrecking stuff, but you never see any of this, nor do you see the results of any attacks, as the cities look the same before and after this sequence. So you beat Rose, then go fight Eternatus, and mid-fight the cover art legendaries just sort of show up. And I'll give the game its credit, this is without question the best boss fight I've seen in a Pokemon game, but once it's over, the legendaries leave, you catch Eternatus, Rose straight disappears, and you go become champion. The entire sequence has no bearing to the plot of the game whatsoever, and it just stalls out the time before the credits screen. Game Freak really dropped the ball with the villains on this one. Alright, I had to get to this eventually. As I'm sure everyone watching this video knows, the National Dex was cut nearly in half for this game. Game Freak has come out saying there's no way they can fit every Pokemon into future games. I call BS that there's no way they couldn't fit the over 800 Pokemon into one game, but I think Knowledge Hub hit the nail on the head. Basically, their assertion goes that in order to keep up with the real moneymakers for the franchise, show, card game, and various collectible merchandise, they don't have time to program all the Pokemon into an annually released game. My only gripe was with the idea the Switch couldn't handle the National Dex, but the 3DS could. It didn't make any sense. What also doesn't make sense to me is the level of outrage I've seen towards the lacking National Dex. Let me give you my perspective. I've been playing these games since I was a wee little kiddo playing the original Game Boy Pokemon Red at my grandma's. The only gen I skipped was 3 because I was at that age where a kid's game didn't make you popular with girls and puberty overrode childlike glee. But aside from Gen 3, I've consistently bought every new game on release and happily played in the available VGCs, except for Gen 7 because they ruined the metagame with Gen 7. But that's a rant for another time. Anyway, some of my core team staples included Scizor, Zapdos, Chansey, Skarmory, Garchomp, Landorus, and Porygon 2. All of which are not available in this game. Now mind you, I've had the same Pokemon carrying over from Gen 5, I just rebreed them so I can use them at VGCs and they're sitting comfortably either in my Pokemon Bank or my Ultra Moon cartridge. You know what my thought was upon finding out I don't get to play with them this gen? Huh. Well, that sucks. Oh well. Maybe I'm just a weirdo, but I genuinely do not understand the level of rage I've seen regarding the National Dex. The only way I can think to explain it is these people live such comfortable lives that such a minor, inconsequential trifle as this is enough to give them PTSD. Folks, say it with me. It's just a game, and it's no big deal. That said, looking at what made the cut, I have a theory. Given that the cut mons are stuff like the Tapus, the Ultra Beasts, the Legendaries, and Smeargle, my theory is this gen had the VGCs more in mind than the single-player campaign. I mean, look at it, a lot of the stuff that's gone completely dominated the VGCs and ranked modes of online play. All I'm saying is I'm hopeful we're going to see a much more varied metagame this generation. Geez, I've already harped on the negatives of the game long enough, but just to reiterate, the bad guys sucked and Hop is a bad rival. Aside from that, max rate battles don't work. That was one of the big selling points of the game, right? The ability to band together and take down a big boss monster? Great idea, and I'd probably love it if I could join in on some. Oh sure, I can do them by myself, but I have to use NPCs who carry damn Togepi and Magikarp into the fight and get one-shotted. By the way, when 4 Pokemon get KO'd, you lose the raid battle, so unless your Pokemon can solo it, you can't rely on the NPCs for anything. This sucks too, because the raid battles give you great loot such as attacks and XP candies. Not to mention, you get to catch a Pokemon which are seemingly set to have at least 2 maxed out IVs in their stats. I've looked far and wide on the internet and numerous others are having the same problem with no solution in sight. The game is also very linear. You have a set path you can't deviate from, and you have to complete it the way Game Freak wants. Remember the Let's Goes? Once you beat Brock, I'm pretty sure you could do the gyms in any order long as Giovanni was last. The dungeons are also painfully short, too. Like, you can't even get lost trying short. Every dungeon in the game I had the same thought. That was it? Now, to be fair, it could also be to the game's credit, as I'm much more interested in online and VGC more than the single player. It only took them, 10 years since introducing natures in Gen 3, but Game Freak has finally seen fit to add an item to the game to change a Pokemon's nature. This, combined with the hyper training from Gen 7, significantly cuts down on the need to breed Pokemon for hours on end in the hopes that you'll get the 1 in 1,000 perfect IV nature Bidoof to go online with. With the introduction of XP candies and how you get rare candies like it's going out of style, getting Pokemon to 100 and make use of hyper training is also easier than ever. And praise Arceus, sing his name, because Game Freak saw fit to eliminate random battles. You know, I never realized how much I hated random encounters until RPGs started doing away with them. Thanks to this, Shield is probably the fastest main storyline I've ever completed. Well, combined with how short it is anyway. Seriously, if you time it right, you can get through the whole game without any overworld battles. And the hits just keep on coming because they removed the cap on how many vitamins you could give a Pokemon. Vitamins increase EV points. You used to only be able to give 10 vitamins per stat. No longer the case. Now you can max out a stat with vitamins. This is great. You no longer have to grind random battles to EV train your mons. Game Freak has made constructing a competitive team much easier this time around. I can't help but think someone on the team said, hey, we're taking away a lot from the single player, maybe we should make getting into VGC easier and less tedious. I also really like Game Freak leaving out HM moves. It's a lot like random battles. I never realized how much I disliked having to have an HM slave until I didn't have to. You basically unlock fast travel by, second gym? And your bike is amphibious. There's no cut bushes or rock smash boulders, and I know this hasn't been in the game for a while, but there's no need for flash caves either. You know, a lot of what I absolutely love about the game comes down to quality of life improvements. So, I do recommend this game. I am saying go play Pokemon Shield, and I guess by extension Pokemon Sword, but as I said earlier, you know, I didn't pick up Sword, I picked up Shield, so that's where my opinions come from. Anyway, I will say, though, I'm very niche for this, because my enjoyment from Pokemon largely stems from the competitive VGC side. So, you know, my typical thing with a Pokemon game is I'll beat the single-player mode in, like, the first week, and then I'll never reset it to do it again, never touch it ever again, and everything I do from that point on is strictly so that I can play online and play VGC. So that's where my mentality is coming from this game. If you're a more casual person, I still think you're going to enjoy this game. It's still very good, but you're going to look back on it and compare it to Sun and Moon or X and Y and say, wow, that was just not as good. But I don't know. In my opinion, Pokemon on its worst day is still better than like 95% of the other games I've played. So take that for what it's worth. But anyway, go play it. I highly recommend it. If you watch my videos and you think along the same lines I do, I think you'll enjoy yourself. That being said, you'll have a great day.